Hello and welcome to another podcast. This week on Growing Guelph, my conversation with John Galbraith and Dakota Pitts. John is the creator of Dollhouse Events, and Dakota is a real estate agent in Guelph who's the sponsor and judge of Dollhouse Event series happening right now called Guelph's Next Drag Superstar. In our conversation, we talk about hosting LGBTQ events in Guelph and how supportive of drag-related events the Guelph community is. As always, thanks for downloading, thanks for checking out the podcast, and I hope you enjoy this conversation with John Galbraith and Dakota Pitts happening right now. They've all started pretty casual, usually just in the middle of us talking, but I will start things off by saying thank you so much. I'm joined by John Galbraith and Dakota Pitts today. We're recording at 10C. John Galbraith and Dakota Pitts are from Dollhouse Events. Thanks for joining me on the Growing Guelph podcast. Just to start from the beginning, what inspired you to start Dollhouse Events, and what gap were you hoping to fill in Guelph's cultural scene?
So I was inspired to start Dollhouse Events because my, at the time, fiance had gotten into drag, now husband, and I wanted to create a space for him to perform consistently. I wouldn't say that I was filling a gap because there was already producers producing drag in the Guelph area, and that's where my husband got his start. But my goal was to create more opportunities for him to perform and to just kind of, I guess, provide opportunities for more artists as well. And I just always tried to kind of make our events a little bit different than the other ones that are out there. We've been able to find kind of our own crowd, own audience for our events. But yeah, it just started with my husband became a drag queen, and it's kind of really hard to get gigs as a drag queen, especially when you're starting out. So the best way for him to get experience and start kind of cut his teeth in the industry was for me to start a company and have him just learn how to do it as he was going through it.
That's fun. Is your husband still performing?
Yeah.
What's
the drag name is Antique Doll. So Anne is one of the hosts of our Guelph's Next Drag Superstar, and hosts every one of our shows, along with Ultraviolet. So the two of them are always at our shows, hosting, performing, and then we also have a roster of visiting performers and stuff. But those two are always at every show. So, and the best part about doing Dollhouse Events has been seeing the growth in Anne/Mark since 2020 to now. It's been really, really nice for me.
And Dakota, how did you get involved in this?
So my experience with Dollhouse was I had a really good friend when I was in university who invited me to a show. I had never been to an actual drag show before, but I, of course, had watched RuPaul's Drag Race, as any young gay has done. So I went to a show, and I really didn't know what to expect. I had never been. I didn't really know what I was going to see, but I kind of just went. And I was really taken back by the energy in the room. It was honestly just, I can't even remember what show it was. It was so long ago, probably 4 or 5 years ago. Maybe not that long. So yeah, I showed up to the show, and I had no idea what was going to happen. And it was a really small show. I think there was only 15 or 20 people in the audience. Mm-hmm. So when I walked in, I was like, ooh, I don't know what this is. And back in university, I wasn't as outgoing as I am today. So I was extremely nervous and shy. And immediately, just as soon as the show started, everyone just kind of had a sigh, a deep breath. And then the energy in the room was just crazy. I had the best time at the show. It was only an hour long, but I walked out of there thinking what have I been doing? Why have I not been to drag shows before? And then I just kept going. And then John, I don't even remember how our conversation started about Guelph's Next Drag Superstar. I really can't remember.
I think we had wanted to connect on an event. We wanted to partner on an event. Dakota wanted to sponsor something. And so we got together at the Cornerstone, which is one of my favorite local Guelph restaurants. And we just chatted about opportunities to work together, and I had this idea that I had been thinking about, and I kind of presented it to Dakota as an interesting event for him to sponsor, because it's got 4 weeks, it's got kind of a big build up, so I thought that might be kind of a good way for his business to get kind of out to our followers, and for us to kind of start something really fun and hopefully annual
yes,
in the Guelph area.
Yeah, as soon as John presented the idea to me, we kind of kept going back and forth that night. We had a few different ideas. We were talking about different events. And he just presented the idea to me, and something just kind of clicked. And I was like, this actually sounds really, really exciting and really cool. And then the conversation just kind of kept going from there. And yeah, whenever we talk about it, whenever we connect, and like we had our first show last week, and when I walked over that, I was like, just like a different feeling that you don't feel a lot of the time, especially in my business.
And because like when you're around drag all the time, you kind of start to take it for granted. Like it's such a beautiful art form, and I love watching performers. But when it's the same drag shows all the time, and I'm there sometimes 3-4 times a week, it can feel a lot like work, which it is. But then when we do something like that, it like seeing 6 new performers to the area, at least new to me, like give us their absolute all and have a room filled with people. It kind of reignites your love for the art form and for being around it constantly. Like it was just a really special vibe and a really special experience for us that night.
Mm-hmm. It's probably a decent time for me to share like my experience with drag, which it's not something I've talked about on the podcast, but I feel like us, I don't know, cis straight white guys always are in a weird, when I say us, I'm pointing at myself. I'm representing all of us in this conversation. There's always this weird, like we want to be allies and but there's also this weird feeling of like, well, this isn't my space and it's not. I can often feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and I don't want to be that way when it comes to just being a supportive ally. So the way I'll get there is just like transparency and openness. Let's see, my history with drag. I watched Kids in the Hall growing up, which they employ a fair bit of drag on their show. I was a fan of like Monty Python and stuff like that. My wife watches RuPaul's Drag Race. I was aware of the show. I didn't watch I didn't watch a whole season unto itself until the pandemic season, I want to say. We were watching with some friends. Like we would watch together over text, and we would all kind of text together at the same time. That was the season with, was it with Candy Muse? It was the one where the finale had to be done like solo in their own homes.
Ooh,
That's when Jada Essence Hall won.
Yes.
In her living room. Yeah.
Yes. That was my my first time going through a whole season. Since then, I've watched a few of the seasons. I'm kind of not good at like watching every episode, but my wife is, so we tend to watch most of them together. And I've seen a couple of the seasons of like UK versus the world, a few of the Canadian ones, and things like that. So I'm all in on like the idea that drag is a incredibly fun, exciting art form that has existed for thousands of years, and I'm glad that it's finally, not even finally, because in some places like Britain, it's been more mainstream for a longer period of time, but it seems like in at least Canada and other parts of like the Western world, it's becoming more accepted and more, not fully accepted yet, obviously, but more accepted. So can you maybe take us back to the early days of Dollhouse? What were those early days like? What kinds of reaction and support did you kind of get from the Guelph community?
Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm thinking about the early days, because I just genuinely had no idea what I was doing. And I was like, I want to produce drag and I want to do this. But, when you start something and you just kind of naively think that you're going to be like, no, everything's going to go well and you're going to make all this money and make all these people happy. And so we started doing shows at a very small place in Guelph, the Round Table Cafe. And we did shows there for a few years actually, but so we started doing them there, and then right off the bat, like our second or third show was with Ilona Verley from Canada's Drag Race, and then also Boa from Canada's Drag Race. And it was great working with those performers because they were extremely, they'd been on television and everything, but they were extremely down to earth and extremely like just eager to work with us and be there and kind of express their art for the community. So it was really great working with them and kind of getting that experience. But then I had booked a larger performer from the States to come and do like a mini tour here. And I just kind of made the investment and before I kind of knew whether it was smart or not. And so I ended up being, knee deep in this tour, thousands of dollars. And then eventually they were very kind and ended up giving me an out they refunded the money that I gave them because we weren't selling the tickets that we needed to bring them here, and they're a phenomenal performer, but it just for whatever reason we weren't able to make the sales. So that was kind of my biggest learning up front, is like I need to be very smart with the shows that I book and the money that I'm spending out, like that I'm spending before events to like bring people in. And so I've definitely learned from that. And the initial response, I would say, was very, very positive. So by the time that I started Dollhouse, Anne had already built up some fans from the shows that she was doing with the other producer shows in Guelph. And so we had kind of those people. And because we were only performing at the round table, it was like a small space. We only had to fill 25 to 30 seats. So that gets pretty easy when you start to build a foundation or of a fan base. But so I would say overall, we actually got a lot of positive feedback from the community. Like, we didn't actually face our first in-person protester until 2024, which is interesting because there's people that we know that do shows in Hamilton and London that are constantly kind of dealing with that. London especially, people showing up to their events to protest, people just like a lot of hate and vitriol online, which we faced a ton of the hate online, but
yeah, it's usually easier to hate online. It's a little harder to go and make a stand in person.
Well, that's it. And the Guelph events, we don't tend to get as much hate online because obviously I do the advertisements, targeted advertisements to like the local Guelph area for those events. It's the events that when we move out to Center Wellington, we do Fergus and Elora. We unfortunately get a lot of hate on those events. But honestly, like it kind of drives me in a fun way to like, I love that they're coming on their algorithm. It's bothering them. It's ruining their day. And all we're doing is getting on stage and lip syncing to some Britney Spears. Like that's really all that's happening. And it people get so pressed like a panini about it. I'm like, I don't really know why you're so upset, but feel free to continue sharing your hate because you're commenting on it. And if it's on your algorithm, it means that you've clearly shown interest in something like this in the past. So it's showing up. I'm targeting these ads to people who like drag. So why is it showing up on your page if you don't like drag or don't look up that kind of stuff on your internet? So
yeah, I think that's a good reminder for people that if you're hate watching something, you're still watching it, and the algorithm doesn't quite know if you're engaging.
And hate commenting. If you're hate commenting on my stuff, it's still driving up engagement. So
and also there's those like bigger, like maybe people can look inward and find like maybe the reaction that you're experiencing to this that you're translating as, oh, I'm justifiably on a righteous crusade against this. Like maybe that's just you trying to make sense of some confusing feelings that you have inside when you're seeing like drag performed. And I don't know, I'm not going to psychoanalyze any of the haters, but maybe they need to take a real intense look inside themselves and not, especially if they're putting effort in spreading that hate outside. Like, but we are not here to address them, and I doubt they're listening because I just don't think that. I think it's easier for them to hate and react than to sit down and listen to an hour-long conversation with someone they maybe disagree with. But if they are listening, I hope you make it through the whole episode, and again, maybe explore your inner turmoil before you bring that hate out into the world.
One thing that I thought was interesting just about John's monologue there.
Read me, thank you.
As someone who is pretty, I try to be as apparent online as I possibly can be in my business. I do occasionally get a little bit of hate online as well, just in my pro LGBTQ plus posts and things like that. One thing that I've noticed, and I've had conversations with other realtors about this as well, when I post anything that's targeted to Guelph, never do I get hate. Anything like that. I don't get hate comments. Anytime I step outside of Guelph, even if it's to do with one of my listings or just a silly video, way more likely am I to get hate comments that I either have to respond to or delete. And I come from a small town, shout out Norwich. And every time I've done a listing there, I know guaranteed I'm getting some hate comments there. So I think that says a lot about Guelph and that I've never had any issues with the people of Guelph online in any sense.
Yeah, and it definitely speaks to something that you have to get outside the city center. And like you were saying, that it took a fair bit for there to be in-person hate. And I wonder if some of that's just like the overlap of people who find downtown Guelph to be like a scary place full of frightening people and people who maybe have issues with drag as an art form. Like that Venn diagram is almost a circle in terms of like, yeah, if you're not going to head downtown because of, seeing people down on their luck enrages you, then yeah, maybe you're also the type, like that type to want to go and spread hate. Well, speaking of that, Guelph is known for being progressive, I'd say, but no place is perfect. What are some of the biggest barriers that you've had to overcome in building a safe and celebratory space for drag?
I think one of the hardest things has been producing drag in straight-owned spaces, because we are lucky now that we have, that I can think of 2 or 3, maybe 4 places that are either queer-owned or queer managed, or there's like, or it just feels like there are queer people on the team that are valued at the venue. Because when you are producing shows in a straight-owned space, you are producing shows there because you are making the money, and that's really, maybe they're an ally, maybe they want you to have a space for your art, but if you're not making money for them, maybe it's over. Usually, when we are producing shows in queer-owned spaces, they are doing it because they want to give back to the queer community. They want to see those events at their space, and they want to they just want to be part of the community. Like we used to have a venue that we produced shows in quite a bit, and then all of a sudden one of the shows dropped below a certain number of people to make them a certain amount of money, and all of a sudden I got a DM from someone saying, sorry, we're cutting it off. We're not doing it anymore. And it was interesting because of how busy I had seen that venue at our shows. And it just felt like, like you said, there's been a big spike in hate and vitriol on homophobic and anti-LGBTQIA plus thinking. And it just felt like some places wanted to have drag while it was really popular and while the world felt like a safe place for drag. But now that kind of there's been a turn with the rise in those kind of thoughts, it just felt like it was a really quick way for them to say, you know what, actually we're good. Like we're okay to not have drag here.
Yeah.
Because it's not helping us in the way it needs to.
It reminds me, I've heard the term, is it rainbow capitalism?
Absolutely.
I've heard used, where people talk like, like all the big banks are very happy to have, like, put the money into the floats at the Pride Parade in Toronto and support it when supporting it's easy and mainstream. And Trudeau is still top of the polls in terms of, his support. And then things start to turn and the other side of the political spectrum gets more confident. Well, America has their election, and suddenly it feels like there's like a shift in the air, and this, I guess, the capitalist middle, you'd say, or the, as you said, like some of these straight-owned places that were in it for the money that it brought in and didn't really have stake in the game. They didn't have any passion behind it. And as soon as it became like, well, we get X number of complaints and you're not bringing in X, Y number of money, then it just becomes like it's not you, it's just business. But I mean, I guess none of this is ever truly just business when it comes to the types of art that you want to support and bring into spaces. But
when you can feel the difference, like when I work with venue owners and bar owners and restaurant owners, that if it feels like every time you're there, there's a vibe like, oh God, I wonder if we're going to get fired. Like, I wonder if we're not going to be asked back. There are places we go where like there's none of that. It's just like we're there. If we have a down show, like, we'll chat about it. We'll try to work on what's going to be fixed for next time. But we know that like they're not about to cut us off. Like we have a place we work at still in Georgetown. It's called Uncorked on Main, and it's a beautiful restaurant downtown Georgetown. And they, as you can imagine, with Georgetown, there's a lot of a lot of right wing pockets in Georgetown, and they got a lot of hate. They got people calling the restaurant, emailing the restaurant saying, we will not come to this restaurant anymore if you continue to have drag shows. And then they said, we are going to come in person and protest. Like we are going. So one of the owners, Serena, called me and said, like, this is kind of what's happening. And she was like, how are we gonna fight it? Like, there was no question of dumping us. There was no question of like, this is too hard, we're moving on.
Mm-hmm.
It was just, we hate that this is happening, like, towards you, but we're gonna stand by you through it. And it was like, those are the kind of venues that I want to work at and I want to work with.
Well, I guess I'm not a venue owner, but I do own this virtual space that I'm creating, a podcast space. So I guess I'm listening to that as mentioned before. Oh God, is there anything worse than hearing like a straight guy just have to be like, just a reminder I'm straight. Just a reminder I'm like I'm aware of myself doing it.
No, nothing is worse.
Well, yeah, the last time I say it, but yeah, just as a person who's like wanting to be a good ally, I'm trying to listen in on those things. Like, what are the ways to support without being, yeah.
I think there's a direct correlation there as well to just the success of Dollhouse shows as well, because I wouldn't say nervous about talking about these kind of things, but there's a little bit of hesitation there. There's a little bit of like what can I say or type thing.
Yeah.
And I think there's a very similar feeling for a lot of people who attend these drag shows, because even just showing up and supporting it is a little bit political. Me putting my name on it, them performing, it is very political, because we know that there are people right near us who hate that we're doing this, or hate that we're supporting this, or hate that we're even showing up to these events. Mm-hmm. So as someone who unfortunately has a lot of straight friends, thank you. Even just getting people to not come with me to these shows, but getting people to support these shows that I'm a part of or that I'm not a part of. Dollhouse is something that I support wholeheartedly. So I'm always getting people, if you want to come to the show with me, let's go. I do see that hesitation in a lot of my straighter friends who aren't as comfortable showing up to these events because of things like what you're experiencing right now.
Yeah, and it's really like a collective issue that like it's only an issue in our minds, and we have to be brave enough to just get over it. And yeah, that's all it is, right? It's just like the courage of like, hey, like first off, there's not there's this fearfulness. I mean, as I've you guys can hear the nervousness that I'm having of just this like, everyone thinks that there's like a crowd of people waiting to cancel them.
Yeah.
And there's not like most of the time, like sort of like backlash that you see online and things like that. Like, it's fully ignorable. These people aren't serious people. If you could see their, like, it's only, we only can take their hate seriously because it's in the same sort of like proper written text form. If you were to encounter that kind of hate, like on the street or something, like it's almost just so much easier to dismiss when you're like, what do I care what that person says? Or like, and it's, yeah. And I think like the idea of people being afraid of saying the wrong thing, laughing at the wrong joke, and just, I mean, I guess a lot of it's the fear of being outside of the privileged space, right? Like, we grow up and all of culture is catered to us and makes us comfortable and makes us feel safe. And then there's this counterculture because we specifically put it as a counterculture, that it has to be counter to us. And then, like, who am I to complain that it's not catering to me, or that being in that space is, I don't know. It's a tricky thing to navigate through.
100%. And I think those people who have those concerns are 9 times out of 10 people who have never attended a drag show. Because I think the second, and I'm sure John will agree, the second you walk in and sit and watch a drag show, I think all of those things go away. When I went to my first show, which, by the way, did you say Alona Verley was one of your first shows? Because that was the show that I went to.
Okay, but we've had Alona Verley 3 separate times.
It was like directly after she was on.
At the round table?
Yeah, at the round table.
Okay, so that was August of 2021.
Yeah, that was 100%. That was one of the first shows I went to, so that's crazy.
That is crazy.
I have been here since the beginning. But anyways, if you go to a drag show, you know that the people attending the drag show, it's so unserious. It's literally just everyone's having fun.
Yeah.
No one is judging you. No one is paying attention to you, honestly. People are watching the amazing performers on the stage, or, hanging out with their friends. So when I first went to that first show, I had a very similar nervousness going to it, because I wasn't as in the scene, I guess you would say. I never attended a drag show, so I was scared about how people would perceive me just being there. And no one paid attention to me the whole time. Everyone was having fun. It was very, very chill vibes. it's just not that serious as people get in their head and make it seem to be.
Yeah, that's a really good whole point. The seriousness of it, where like, again, my perspective of drag from what I've limited experience with like RuPaul and his whole empire that he's created. And it's just that like, it's a joyful, fun, comedic expression. And the culture war talking points of it all have turned it into this like as if it's this like intense, and it can be intense and it can be serious, and like any art form, people bring into it what they want, but it's so much more like lighthearted and comedic, and it's not even like it's not even really focused on sexuality. It's like, obviously, you know, and I'm not going to turn this podcast into like, what is drag? Because I'm not the person to have that conversation, but it's clearly like, it's just deeply rooted in like making fun of our own self-seriousness of these gender roles that we've created, and sending it up and like just shining a light onto it in a comedic sense. And like, that's part of what the whole like drag personas are all about, is like cranking the volume up to 11 on these attributes and stereotypes and like fun things, right? Like, it's entirely when it's viewed on that culture war from the other side. Like, it's only through that lens that you could be like talking about drag in like such serious tones, because like when you see drag, it's just like joyful, comedic fun, right? Like, not always, not all drag, but like that's the general sentiment that I get from it.
And I think John responds to people, the hate he gets online, in a very similar fashion too. I always have a giggle whenever I see his comments, because people are so serious in these comments on hating, and John just comes back with some silly comment like, this is not that serious. It's really not. And I think if more people would attend a drag show, they would actually understand what it is. And I think that's why RuPaul's Drag Race kind of became so popular over those years, because people got a little sneak peek into what drag and local drag is. But yeah, it's just, it's really deep, it's rooted in misunderstanding.
And like, sometimes I'll serve you up like a novel of like like, I'll be like, this is why you're wrong, blah, blah. But I Trixie Mattel has a tweet that got kind of gay famous, where it was like, this woman named Patty, and she was just like talking about, I hate you. Like, I don't even know, like a manifesto monologue. And Trixie just tweeted, Patty, don't start. Like, don't start, Patty. And I cackled. And so I just like, I try to do stuff like that. I'm like, just don't start with me. Like somebody was like, sickos. And I was actually, we've just got a clean bill of health back from the doctors. Like, we're actually okay. And just to refer to what you said earlier about like straight guys feeling awkward going into space, which I do get, but it's like, a drag show is one place where like you could walk in with a spiked rainbow mohawk, or you could walk in like a muumuu, or like you could walk in dressed as like a chicken. And like, a drag show is one place where people are like, oh, I love your outfit, I love your hair, like, work, chicken. Like no one cares. Like, and with straight men, especially straight women, the bar is on the floor. So it's like, just showing up and not taking yourself too seriously. Like, usually they end up being like the star of the show. Like, if you are just comfortable with being there, smiling, enjoying yourself, and dealing with a little bit of like flirty banter from a drag queen, even if you're not, like, if you're just like, thanks so much, but like, I know I'm not into that no one cares. Like, they'll just move on. But if you just are good with showing up and kind of letting go of your like, I'm too cool for this attitude, you can, like, straight men have had some of the best times at our shows. Like, because really it is like, when it comes down to it, it's just like great performers, and it's beautiful people performing on stage. So who doesn't like that?
Well, I don't know if we're going to be able to get straight people to give up their ego and just like,
No other battle.
But
that's not specific to straight people, but yeah.
No, it's not. But I think there would be some problem solved in the world if straight men just took a moment to say like, hey, not everything's about you. And also like, you don't have to have an emotion or a feeling about this. Like, it's fine.
That's the other thing. Indifference is fine. If you're not actively against us, then we're not going to blame you or anything like that. Drag shows are not for everyone.
Yeah, you also don't have to like it. Like,
Yeah.
if you come to a show and you don't like it, you can go home. Like, you can leave. You don't have to come back. It's like, but most people come back. Like, we've had like 2 women bring their husbands, and at the end of set 1, we have intermission, and then all of a sudden they're gone. It's like it wasn't for them, and that's fine. Like, it is totally fine for something to not be for you.
Yeah.
What's not fine is for you to go on your high horse and tell us that none of us can have it because you don't like it or you don't want it.
Yeah, that, well, I mean, what motivates people to go down that path of, you know, being the moral police on things? Yeah, it's not even really worth digging into, like, what motivates that kind of, that hate, but I think we can say that it's probably fear, in that it's a fear of, like, why is this person that I don't understand so confident? And
That's
so,
exactly it.
like, why are they being so proud? And, like, I mean, that right there is literally why, like, pride as a concept is, like, you know, capital P pride is important to support, because for most of time, pride was impossible. It was either illegal or just, like, crushed out by the rest of society. And now we're in a time where, like, some of us straights are allowing it to exist, and some of us are trying to be allies, and some of us aren't, and that's fine as long as it's not fine, but as long as they're not the majority, and they're, you know, they can stay protesting across the street if they want to, because they're drowned out by the people who are happily attending, supporting, or making it work, right?
Yeah, and that, like, and I'm of two minds also, because I do want drag to be accessible to the most people possible, but I also like drag is political. Drag started as defiance, right? And and pride is a protest. The first pride was a riot. Like, people come to a show. You can expect at a drag show that, like, if there's an election coming up in Canada, we're going to be asking people to vote. Yep. And we're going to be asking people to vote for someone who is not trying to take away to us LGBTQIA plus rights. Like, and we've had people be kind of, oh, well, you know what? I came out for a good night with my friends. I don't want to hear about politics. And I said, well, that's because it doesn't matter to you.
Yeah.
You are in you're in a heterosexual relationship. You consider yourself straight, middle to upper class. This election really doesn't matter to you. So, but it does matter to us. It matters to drag performers. It matters to the queer community. And also, who is going to, you know, speak up and amplify the voices of the people that are most affected by this election, if it's not, you know, people in the drag community that actually, if we have a platform, I have 200 people at a show, I'm going to tell all 200 of those people, go out and vote as if you weren't straight, as if you weren't white, as if you weren't able-bodied, like all those things. So, like, that's why I want to make sure that, like, I want to make sure people come to our shows and have a great time, but it's more important that people know that, like, our messaging is that we like what we stand for, and like and that it's more important that queer people have rights than straight people are comfortable.
Yes, that, I mean, yeah. What's, like, that's such a good point to land on there. That, like, it's such a point of privilege to ever suggest that, like, oh, well, I upset that they're bringing politics into this, as if, like, politics isn't just the entire world that we live in, and like, people are only able to think that politics doesn't impact them because they are, like, the most privileged, most like catered to the point where they don't even have to think of it themselves, because even they think of themselves as, like, the default citizen, right? And that's, like, the heteronormativity, I guess, is, like,
100%.
Yeah.
And then you get into a situation where you get so blinded by your heteronormativity and you're just surrounded by people that think like you, that then, like, you hear online that a 60-year-old white straight billionaire from the States flies to the star of his movie's house, 23-year-old woman of color, and says, you need to take down your post because she posted Free Palestine online. Mm-hmm. So, like, the whole Snow White movie in the States has failed so miserably because Rachel Ziegler had the guts to stand up and say Free Palestine. And the people came to her and say, you need to take this down. And she said no. And the movie's been review bombed by people that don't agree with her. And so but she doesn't care. Like, she stood up for what was right. And I think it's such a good example of, like, he thought getting in a plane, going and bullying her was going to work, and it didn't. So it's like, I think it's such an important lesson to learn, like, to stand on your beliefs and to not kind of let people like bully you and say, like, you can't say that. Like, I'm going to say what I want to say, and I'm going to stand up. In 20 years, when we look back, I want to say I was on the right side of things.
Yeah. And when your convictions tell you you're on the right side, it's easy to be confident about
Absolutely.
it. I think I've been thinking about this quite a bit lately just because he just passed away. But when David Lynch, and his quote, which is, I won't get into what he's talking about, but he's basically supporting a queer colleague of his. And he says, as I told everyone else, like, fix your hearts or die. And it's just like, it's that simple. Like, get on board, or like, we're done with you. And like, why do we have to consider the opinions of like bigots and people who are, every year are getting further and further back into the history books? Hopefully, at least that's the way we should be viewing it. And the more we, I think, look at it that way, the more it'll be easier to see it that way and be easier to fight against. Well, okay. I feel like we've gotten to some like lofty, like far places, which is good. That's where I like this podcast to go. But you've both kind of created these events that are joyful, inclusive, artistically rich. What does a successful event look or feel like to you, like beyond just ticket sales or attendance? And is there anything unique about catering to events for Guelph audiences versus other audiences in other places?
That's a great question. I would say in Guelph events, I can take a lot more risks. A lot more specific shows work in Guelph because there's such a big community of people who are interested in Guelph and drag. Like, I can do a Sabrina Carpenter brunch. I can do like Taylor Swift show, stuff like that, because there are not only enough people that like drag, there are enough people that like drag and Sabrina Carpenter or drag and Chapel Roan or whatever. And so it's been really nice to be able to experiment with different shows. I would say like a successful event is like, I have so many examples, but like we do a lot of shows at universities, for example. And we had, I had this gentleman who was a international student and had a sparkly phone case. And as we were taking pictures of the queens after, I said, I love your phone case. And he was like, thank you so much for saying that. I just got the guts to put it on today because I was coming to this show. And so he was like, he said, I'm super worried to have this on. But, I figured I'm just going to do it. Like, I'm just going to have it on, whatever. And I was like, that's amazing. Like, the fact that this person, for 2 hours, came to this event and felt safe and welcome and comfortable is amazing. Like, we also, we just had a show with Perla from Canada's Drag Race Season 4, who is one of the most amazing people that I've ever worked with. But I logged on to Twitter to see that Perla had a conversation with, there was like a 17 or 18-year-old fan of Perla that had tweeted, Perla's coming to my city, but I can't go because it's 19 plus. Like, I'm so upset. And Perla had messaged and said, we will try to get you in, but if not, like, I'd love you to come to the show and I can meet you outside for a picture or something. And I was like, I just love that, like, that is like the more important thing. Like, the more important thing is that this 17 or 18 or whatever gets to go to the show, and the venue ended up letting us have a one-time exception if they came with their parent. And I was like, it's just for those people, like the queer kid's first show, or like the parent bringing the queer kid to the show, or like someone's first show after they come out as an adult, or like there's just so many stories like that. Or like, I don't know, like, it's just, we've had so many people that like I've been able to talk to after the show or at the show or before the show where they've said, this show was important to me because of A, B, and C. And that is like, nothing beats that feeling of like, we've created this space and we've created this environment and this person has had like genuinely a great time. Like, that is what a successful event kind of is, beyond, like, other than obviously to keep the lights on, you need the ticket sales. But some events, we do events at DeVar downtown once a month. And some of our actually favorite events there have been ones where we've sold like 16 tickets. Like, we have this amazing group of women who come every time. And we just like, and again, it's a queer-owned space. We have like, it's such a comforting space that like, even if there's 15, 16 people there, like the girls and the audience has a great time. So it's like, we've had amazing times at shows with as low as one person, which is a crazy story, but and we've had shows with up to 300 people. And we've had amazing experiences at shows of all sizes, and we've also had terrible experiences at shows of all sizes. But the positive, the thread that ties the positive ones together is there's usually somebody who is there for a reason, and the show meant something to them.
I think the phone case story, just going back to that is the entire reason that I have involved myself in Dollhouse. Just that one story. That was one story, one person for one show.
Yeah.
And Dollhouse does X amount of shows a month. So how many people are they actually affecting in that way?
Yeah. And even the ones that never say anything to you, or, even the ones that your ad reaches them and they're in a rural place, they're maybe not even out. Maybe they're still figuring out what's like going on with them, but even just they see that a thing like that is happening, and it's happening, half hour down the road from them, and they can't speak up, and maybe even like people in their life are the people angry about that kind of event, but just the knowledge that it's happening and seeing it, and that it's like, drag isn't just something that happens in big cities, or it's not just in like the Toronto Village or whatever. It's like there are these communities everywhere. That's got to be giving hope to so many people out there, whether you even find out about it or not. Like just that, they're not alone, and that there's,
100%. I mentioned, I came from a small town where I think I probably was the only gay person in my high school.
The only
out gay person for sure. There's definitely been a few since. But I came to Guelph for university, and I didn't go to my first drag show for a couple of years. And that first drag show I walked into, that kind of feeling that I felt of like, there's like a weight off your shoulder. Like there's gay people here. There's community. There's things that are actually happening. And that's just my experience. And again, Dollhouse does so many shows for so many people. So just that exposure, and just getting people in the door to experience drag and what that is, it's crazy.
Oh, I had one thing I was going to mention, that you mentioned that you've done Taylor Swift events before, and I should say that my wife, my mother-in-law, Jane, hey Jane, I know you're listening, and some of their family members went to one of the Taylor Swift events that you put on, and my wife loved it, and she had so much fun. They all loved it. They all had a really good time. Just thought I'd mention that real quick.
Thank you. Hi, Jane.
The other thing I wanted to say is there any overlap in your mind? So you had said that the event started at the round table in Guelph.
Yeah.
What do you, in your mind, is the overlap between the like queer community and maybe people who it's less of a identified community, but more of like that nerdy, like fantasy loving, like maybe with like a dash of like alt edge to it? Is there overlap there between like safe spaces and those things, or like?
I would say there's definitely overlap between like the gaming community and the queer community. We have not necessarily had a ton of overlap with the gaming community coming to our shows. Like the gaming community who games at the round table coming to our shows there has not had a ton of overlap. But there's an amazing group called Queer Night Out that does like a wine night every Tuesday. And they also have been doing, I noticed a Dungeons and Dragons campaign for queer people. So I've been kind of watching that develop online, and it's been very, really, really great, because it's like they may not be interested in drag show. That may not be their thing, but there is queer community that wants to come together in places other than drag shows, and so I do like, as much as I love when they come to our drag shows, I love that there's just community organizers organizing events for queer people of all interests. But yeah, like. We used to do shows at the round table, but now we've moved to the Albion, same owner, same ownership team, but it's a better fit stage wise, capacity wise, etc. But and I was speaking to the manager about this, and he said it's interesting actually how he has never seen someone who comes to the Albion or comes to the round table for gaming stuff also come for a drag show. So it's been interesting that there hasn't been any overlap that we have noticed. If there's someone that has done that, I apologize, but we haven't noticed.
So I understand that you've tried to make a move towards more sustainable drag, including like ditching glitter and working with biodegradable alternatives. Can you speak about what sparked that shift, and has there been any response or positive responses from the community?
So specifically about the glitter it's very funny, because it's that Aaron, the manager of the Albion, one of the first things he told me when we were going to start doing shows at the Albion was no glitter. He has a story about I can't remember which famous person, but some famous woman he was like assisting, and she would just like everywhere she went, she would throw glitter. And then he said there was just glitter everywhere, like in the crevices, all over. So he has like a thing with glitter. So that is where that came from. But also like we have been from the beginning very aware of trying not to make a mess, trying not to like damage the place we work. But like I also don't want to leave a mess for people to clean up. So glitter, stuff like that makes a mess that you really can't clean up glitter. Like you can, but it's never going to really go away. Mm-hmm. We try not to leave any impact that is lasting like that at our venues. But when it comes to sustainable drag, like Anne and Violet have always been very, very good at creating drag from like they shop at Value Village a lot. They shop at thrift stores. They put outfits together from reusable stuff, and I have never seen either one of them get something for a show and then immediately throw it out. Like they never throw anything out. First of all, if they get rid of it, they donate it to Value Village. It's all to put it back in the reuse world. Mm-hmm. But I think it's just very important to like some people look down on quote unquote thrifty performers that like will use Value Village stuff or whatever. But it's I find like it's materials that already exist. First of all, it's cost effective. Like I think it's very classist to look at someone and say that they're less than or something as a performer because their like outfits are not brand new. Yeah. To get a brand new outfit made for a drag performer can be anywhere from like $300-400 on the low end to like well over $1,000 and higher. So it's like not everyone has the means to do that. But also it's just like by Anne and Violet shopping at Value Village and finding things where they look sickening and they are amazing, they're not only saving more waste, but they're keeping stuff out of landfills, and I'm really proud of that. So to be honest, like I've always been kind of trying to do what I can to not create too much waste. So it's just kind of natural to try and not waste. But the glitter thing was specifically because Aaron was like, do not bring glitter into my restaurant. And I was like, I respect it.
Yeah. I wonder if some of that backlash too of like people wanting to hate on like people putting together sustainable thrifted drag is it's almost like the success of RuPaul's Drag Race and the constant like ratcheting up of the expectations for that show it's almost led to like a wider drag appreciating community to lose touch with like, hey, like if you want to think of it this like RuPaul's is like the Olympics of drag or whatever. Yep. And you can't hold queens in Guelph to that necessarily that same standard, and like remember that those queens that are on RuPaul's are being like a lot of them go into huge amounts of debt in order to be on the show.
Well, yeah,
they're supported by like the designers who give them things just for free to wear on it, right? Like it's
but it's also like there were like Drag Race in its initial stages was, and it still is, it's performers that are not famous that get, so it's like people look at, and even nowadays, like there's a performer like Lydia B. Collins who I'm absolutely obsessed with, who her looks are incredible and so interesting and so innovative, and there's some discourse online about like, oh, that doesn't look completely finished and whatever. And I'm like, she is so innovative and her work is so interesting that it's like we should not be watching. First of all, go up there and do it then. Like if it's so easy, but we should not be sitting on our couch being like, that doesn't look perfectly like these. Some of these performers had no money, but most of them had no money before going on the show. And I don't think like, if you think about Drag Race, like the fact that performers have to go into debt to go and do the show, you could go into $30,000 worth of debt and then go home first on RuPaul's Drag Race. Yeah. But you can go on Big Brother and with no talent, and this is not shade or to anyone on Big Brother, but you can go on Big Brother, win $500,000 for doing nothing. Yeah. And it's like, so it's crazy to me that, first of all, I think Drag Race should be giving like I don't know what it's called, but like whether it's a stipend or whatever, but like they should be giving a chunk of money to these performers to create their looks. Mm-hmm. Like people should not be going into drag going into debt for the show. But I just think it's really crazy for people to sit at home and be like, wow, that's not perfect. And like also like someone that's performing at the Albion downtown Guelph, like they're not getting paid $1,000 per show. Like drag is expensive. Side note, if you've ever heard, there's a musical called Drag the Musical, and there's a song called Drag is Expensive, so you should look that up. It's really fun. But drag is so expensive. Makeup is expensive. Everything is expensive. Pads are expensive. So it's like, if they can find something sickening that they look good in, who cares where it's from? Who cares where it's from?
I'm always so curious. I look up online all the time what drag queens who go on RuPaul's Drag Race spend on their packages, because the range is like people like Lydia. I think I can say Lydia Butthole Collins. That's her full name.
Yeah, no, that's all good.
She spent a lot less compared to someone on a similar or the same season, Lexi Love, who I just read that she got a second mortgage on her house just to compete on the show. Which, like John said, she could have went home first and lost all of that money for nothing. Luckily, spoilers, she's in the finale. But
yeah.
And they both look and they both are sickening, and they both are doing amazing, and they both look phenomenal. So it's like
getting the same fan reaction.
So it's like Lexi spent the money and felt like she was in a position to do that, which is great for her.
Yeah.
Lydia has this amazing sickening looks without spending $50,000, whatever, and that's also great for her. Like, I just think people should be able to produce the drag that makes them happy, and I feel like it's so much more than just like looking pretty on a runway. It's like if you've got like the talent and the star power and like the charisma, like you can kind of make anything look. You can make anything look good.
Some of my most favorite episodes of Drag Race that I've seen are the crafting ones where they have to like cobble together their outfits. Yeah, those design challenges, and then you always find out like who's never ran a sewing machine before. But I mean, I never understand that because they all know it's coming, because it's like, hey, you can watch a couple hours of like sewing machine, how to use it, and like maybe like if I was going to be on RuPaul's, I'd at least do like a few hours of how to use a sewing machine, because you know what's going to happen to you.
But the number one ingredient in a drag performer is delusion. And I have talked to many performers who say, I haven't sewed per se, but I know my way around a sewing machine, and I know how it works, and I know how a pattern works, and I know. And I'm like, I'd love to see it. Like, I'd love to see you show me how to make it. But there's like this opinion that once they're on the show, they'll figure it out. Like they're gonna. And I just
enough friends in the workroom.
That's why, like, yeah, like, oh well, that's what happens. It's like I can't remember who it was. It might have been Saphira Cristal last year. Yeah, who spent so much time helping other performers that like her garment wasn't finished. So it's like it's stuff like that, and like that right there is like that the definition of like what drag means to the queer community is like Saphira is like going to help people that are competing against her because it's what we do. If you were on Survivor, there's nobody helping. There's nobody going to be like, oh, let me help you finish this challenge to maybe beat me. No, it's not going to happen. It's like that's the magic of like of the art form. Is like no one fights like drag performers, but also like there's like this camaraderie and a sister brotherhood that like is very strong.
It's also like more sportsmanlike, I guess.
Yeah,
say,
100%.
That you want your competitor to be at their best, because then when you beat them,
you're beating
it's
them
a real
at their best.
win.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
So, how do you see like Dollhouse evolving over the next couple years? And I guess along those lines, we talked about it a little bit, but can you talk about the is it called Guelph's Drag Superstar?
Guelph's Next Drag Superstar.
Yeah, talk about that and that event series.
So do you want to talk about Guelph's Next Drag Superstar, and then I can talk about the other part?
Sure. So I think the conversation we just had relates quite well to this, actually. We had night one last week, which was our first night. It's a 4-part series. We have a different challenge, somewhat based off of RuPaul's Drag Race or similar to those challenges.
Inspired by. Ru doesn't own drag. He just helped popularize a lot of it.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So last week we actually had all of the performers do somewhat of a design challenge where we asked them to come and present a look. But it was thrifty folk, so it was based, or they were just to use supplies from thrift stores or things like that. Mm-hmm. I don't know what your interpretation of it was, John, but I was blown away by some of the looks. Honestly, by all of the looks that they put together. And we obviously didn't want them spending any money or as little money as absolutely possible. But these 6 young artists put together 6 looks that like borderline could have been on a runway.
And to be honest, I kind of forgot that it was horrendous. Like I kind of forgot until I was like, oh yeah, this like some of their looks. I was like, there's no way. Like there's just no way. Like you like, and I can't make stuff, and I'm not like good like that. So I have such an appreciation for it. But like, yeah, it was crazy. Like just to see the talent that came out.
And even like the lip syncs, their performances, I had high expectations, as I do for any event I put on or any performer I watch. But I truly was blown away by all 6 of them. There was no weak link. There was nothing. It was a really phenomenal group of artists. So I'm very, very excited to see the next 3 shows over the next couple weeks. Mm-hmm. We're doing 3 more shows, concluding with our finale at the end of May. Where we will crown Canada's, maybe, Guelph's next drag superstar. And the hope for this is that it's going to be, like John mentioned, an annual thing. So we would love to build this up to be kind of a staple in the queer community and the drag community in Guelph, where we do this each year because John and I have a similar outlook where we love supporting young artists who are just getting into it and don't have a lot of support, if I'm honest, from a lot of people or organizations. So yeah, I think that my kind of influence on Dollhouse is mostly with Guelph's Next Drag Superstar. And yeah, I think night 1 blew me away, and I have really, really high hopes for this year and continuing on.
That's very cool. Well, you said that was last week, and we're recording this on April 16th, and the episode will likely come out the morning of the 23rd. Next week. So if people are listening to this and it's like still end of April, do you know when the last event is?
So we have if it comes out on the 23rd, our next event is tomorrow night, the 24th, and then we have May 8th, and then our finale is May 23rd.
Cool, very cool. I think it's also it's really interesting when, like you kind of talked about establishing like a new, not brand, but like you said, like a new platform that then future generations will be able to almost just kind of take for granted. And to go back to Drag Race, RuPaul's Drag Race, you can kind of see that in like when the young queens talk about that they've been watching the show since they were 12 and they started watching on season like 10 or 8 or whatever. And it's just like a very different world that they are beginning their drag career in than like especially RuPaul did when he was like trying to break down barriers, but like doing it on his own. And that's good. And then I guess the negatives of that are kind of what we talked about of like the barriers to entry can get so high because the competition gets so high that like, you know, you have to spend so much more money into it and do that. But at least Guelph isn't at that point yet. There's not a huge, people aren't going into debt to be on Guelph's Next Drag Superstar.
I sincerely hope not. But yeah, like we used to do something called Drag Wars with a Z. And 2 of the performers we work with the most, like some of them, most whatever, are Caramel and Peach Blossom. And we met both of them through our Drag Wars. And they were competing in our shows. And then they've just gotten like so good. Like they've improved so much. And they're now like just seasoned performers. Mm-hmm. And are phenomenal that like I don't know, like I'm sure we would have come across them. They would have got their start somewhere else, and they would have come across them eventually. But I love that they competed in our competition, and now they perform with us all the time. But to answer your question about projects, like to be honest, Guelph's Next Drag Superstar was something I wanted to do for a while, and didn't really know how to kind of get it going. But now that it's going, I'm very happy. We really want to work with Guelph Pride. Guelph Pride has been amazing in supporting our events over the last few years. My ultimate goal, and I've talked to them about this, and I would be to have kind of like an outdoor like drag show, like a big Pride drag show that like they have in Try Pride in Kitchener, Waterloo, Cambridge. But I would love to do that kind of thing. I would also love to keep working with like nice people, like. I'm now past the point where I just want to work with someone because they, you know, whatever, have a certain amount of followers. Like I have worked with now a ton of, you know, whether it's Drag Race, Canada's Drag Race performers, and we just did a show with Jan in the summer, and she is like one of the nicest people I've ever met, and it's it's just so nice to work with nice people and people that are like just love performing. Like one of our good friends, Van Gogh, is a performer in Toronto, and she performs all the time, and she loves marathon drag, which is like what they do in Toronto, where they like perform for 30 minutes straight, because she just loves performing. Like she will do however many numbers you want. Like she will perform whatever. She'll perform the house down. She'll perform a mix. She will mingle with the audience before. She'll mingle with the audience at intermission. She'll stay after taking photos with everybody. Like I want to work with people like Van who love drag and who love performing and who love meeting people and just like and are in it for the right reasons. Like it's just going forward, I want to work with people that I like and people that are nice people. I want to partner with businesses that also have the same goals and have the same goal that the queer community will feel represented and will have somewhere to go to and events to attend, and like that's kind of where I'm hoping we go in the next couple of years.
And it's like I know that drag is finding its way into some of the other events in the city, and that right, like it wasn't this past Hillside, but the Hillside before that. Sorry, I'm trying to keep track of when I went to. Anyway, I saw Priyanka perform at Hillside. It was either last year or the year before. And that's very cool to see, just like someone be able to take the main stage in the middle of the afternoon. And I know that's not possible everywhere, but it's clearly possible in Guelph.
Well, on Hillside 2 years ago, we were able to work with our amazing friend Maya, who brought Amanda Lepore to, was that Hillside or Riverfest?
I think it was Riverfest.
Sorry, it was Riverfest in Elora. And that was amazing because Amanda Lepore is a nightlife legend. She is like, she's like the one in New York nightlife. So to be able to work with Amanda Lepore in Elora was crazy because I used to go to Elora as a kid. We had a trailer in Bellwood, and I never would have thought that I would be producing, and I didn't produce that show, but I would be like seeing Amanda Lepore and working with Amanda Lepore in Elora. It was just crazy. Like, so it's been really, really great to see that.
Is Norwich next then? You said you grew up there, right?
Just give Norwich a quick Google and you'll see why it's not next.
Well, time has a way of slowly changing hearts and minds, or time has a way of killing the people whose hearts and minds won't be changed. And things change and they get better over time, maybe even for Norwich eventually. But speaking of that, of like people who aren't familiar with the space, if anyone who's listening who's, maybe drag curious, or, maybe in the queer community, not identified as, or, it's just this conversation sparks something in them, but they're kind of unfamiliar with the culture. What's the best way for them to show up respectively and to like supportively to a show?
I'd say buy a ticket, show up. If it's in your means, tip the performers. If it's not, show love and appreciation, applaud, tag them, put them on Instagram, and just be like, just show up. See if you enjoy the show. If you don't, that's fine. You don't need to tell us. We're okay. Like, we're going to be fine. If you had a great time, tell us. Or if you genuinely think there's something that we need to improve on, tell us. But if you're just saying, you know what, this isn't for me, and you would, like, you laugh, but you'd be surprised. Like, people that would be like, no, I didn't like this. Okay. That's okay. You can go home. Like, that's fine. A lot of people did. But yeah, like, just show up and come with an open mind.
I think it's important to note too that drag really is for everybody. You don't have to identify as being a member of any sort of community. You don't have to identify as an LGBTQ plus person. You don't even have to know what you identify as, but you can just honestly show up. I guarantee you can find someone in that room who you can connect with and relate to. I was really shocked on my first couple of Dollhouse shows how many people come alone.
Oh, absolutely.
Come alone by themselves, and they work their way into a table with people, and people will gladly say, grab a chair, pull up, have a drink, and chat. It's very, very, very welcoming. You can literally walk in by yourself, and guaranteed within 5 minutes you'll have made a friend.
No, that's a huge endorsement. I know some people wouldn't even like want to go to the movies on their own, and that's like their audience participation in that should be nothing. But that's great to hear that the events have that much like community open-mindedness and support that even as an audience member just show up. Well, John, Dakota, thank you so much for your time this evening to talk through this. John, if people want to know more about Dollhouse events, where should they go online to?
On Instagram at Dollhouse Events, but it's spelled the gay way, so DOLLHAUS events. And follow also Antique Doll and Ultraviolet. That's at Antique Doll, ANNETIQUEDOLL, and it's Ultraviolet with 2 T's.
How about you, Dakota?
You can find me at Dakota Pitts Official anywhere online, TikTok, Instagram. You can just type my name in, you'll find me. And if you're looking for a way to support local drag queens, one thing you can very easily do is go to Dollhouse's account and just look for drag queens that they're following and give them a follow, see if you can relate to any of them. I do that all the time, and I find a bunch of local queens or kings that I didn't know about.
I love that.
Really good advice. I've been not to find specifically in like the drag community, but I've been doing a lot of that just to like follow more people in Guelph. A lot of people in Guelph have just been randomly followed by me, like my Growing Guelph account, because I'm like finding the people who are the most connected and have the most followers, and then just like it's very interesting. The more people from Guelph you follow, the more like you can kind of just start to see the web of it all. Like, oh, this person's friends with these people and they're friends with this, and it's just, real life isn't online, but it's interesting like shadow of people's real communities. And well, with that, thank you so much for your time and for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Thanks for listening to Growing Guelph. I've been your host, Jordan Sloggett. Be sure to subscribe to us on social media, on your favorite podcast app, and if you have a recommendation for a future guest you'd like me to speak to, you can reach out to me at growingguelph@gmail.com.